Hey, it's Chris. Ever want to reach frustration levels, throw my clubs into the water hazard, but can't quite get it on the tabletop side of things? Well, now we have golf, Table Golf Association that's going to allow you to do just that. An amazing golf representation on the tabletop that will be equally skillful and frustrating, just staying true to the actual sport of golf itself. Let me show you why. I have never been so pleased and so over the top frustrated with a game in a good way at the same time. Let's do this. So this is the setup for a typical hole. Now, I say that because the nice thing about this is you have all of these hexes, right? And they're all double-sided, and you can see here we have an actual hole. And you're just going to be custom creating however you want, mix and matching the hazards, the slopes, the greens, the tee off, however you want to do it. And therein lies the beauty of this game. Just like designing your own course, this allows you to simulate that in real life. Now, just to be clear, in the very beginning of this, I mentioned that this was frustrating. And what I mean by that is this game requires an incredibly delicate touch. It may seem super simple. It may seem very straightforward, but the dexterity element of this game cannot be understated. If you are looking for a truly challenging dexterity game, or if you're looking for the closest representation for golf on the tabletop, you don't need to look anywhere else. They don't need to make anything else on the tabletop ever for golf, because this simulates it in a way that is both equally rewarding and frustrating if you're not careful, just like the real life version equivalent. And you can see here that I have this little thing, right? This is a ball bearing essentially in the middle of a plastic ring. And so what you've got going on here is you've got this tee and you're just gently flicking it. And this is the important thing. You are not pushing. Pushing is really easy. Flicking is the skill. And why does that matter? Because you can see how much control you have there, but the flicking right off the table. And that's with someone who's practiced this plenty of times. That's how delicate this game is. You'll also notice that I have a couple different hazards on here in the first place. See these arrows? Yeah, they're going to be the bane of your existence, because you go onto the slope, it rolls you down. Where does it roll you down to? A lot of the time, right into a hazard. -1 penalty stroke. Toss the clubs into the water along with the ball. Tossing baby out with a bath, right? But that's the beauty of this game, is it allows you a few slight ways to mitigate that at the same time. Herein lies one of them. The weather dynamic. Spin this thing, point the player towards you, the direction of the hole, spin it, and see how much you slice it, you draw it, or you fade it, depending on the weather die of how strong the wind is going to be, meaning you move it that many ball lengths accordingly. And so if it landed here, but the wind was strong pointing in that direction, all of a sudden, boop, 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 I make it just over the line into the sand trap instead, thus saving me. Now, if you don't like flicking, if you don't prefer to utilize that as your main mechanism of action, well, we've got your little golf club here as well that you can see, and we're taking advantage of. And again, I actually prefer this over the flicking because it gives me a better degree of control, because if you're like me and you sometimes don't know your own strength, the delicate touch that's required in this game from a flicking aspect is incredibly difficult. I cannot understate that. I cannot. And so this is going to give you more control, because if you're like me and your fine motor skills sometimes get a little shaky, literally and figuratively speaking as well, this is going to give you a better approach to hitting it there. And therein lies the beauty of this game. Now, how do you set it up otherwise? How do you do it? Well, you just grab tiles and you put them down however, in whatever orientation, whatever shape that you want. Now, the biggest detriment of this game, I'll say right now, is that these tiles, as you can kind of see from the overhead view, is they're not always easy to get straight flush. And it's going to require a little bit of constant adjustment to get this aligned. But in case it's not readily apparent. These are wooden. The wooden one is going to give you a higher price point. This new crowdfunding campaign is going to be cardboard. If you're going to buy this and you want the full experience, because there's nothing more frustrating than buying a game and not being able to get the full utilizable experience out of it, feeling like something was just off and it jeopardized or contributed to why you didn't like it, when if it would have been different, your end result also would be different. You buy the wooden version with this. I've had too many games, dexterity or otherwise, where you're looking at these tiles, these board edges, and over time, even time being 1 or 2 games, the edges start to flip up a little bit. They start to rub up. They start to separate. And in a flicking game where the smoothness of the board is the biggest factor, you cannot have that happen. And so for that reason, if you're going to go for this, you go for the wooden version. Because I can't guarantee that the cardboard isn't going to do that like it's done with a lot of my other games in the similar sense. I love Catacombs 3rd Edition. But when Catacombs 3rd Edition, as a primarily flicking dungeon RPG game, where you are flicking spells and your character at other wooden discs on the board, came out with a playmat version, I immediately got rid of my original version, because even after 2 plays, the edges were starting to come up. And if you have that slight unevenness, if the production is off by just a hair, all of a sudden when your flick that is shooting on target like a Tiger Woods ace in the hole hits the edge, it takes it off course, and there is nothing more frustrating. So I cannot, in good conscience, say that this is one of those games that you want to skimp on or cheap on from a components standpoint. Apart from that, what else is there? Well, there's advanced Golf Pro cards that give your character some asymmetry if you really want to go pro in that sense. But the ball bearing inside the plastic here, which again seems just rather lackluster, it's absolutely incredible in terms of simulating what it needs to do on the tabletop. I'm not a golf fan, but if you're a dexterity fan, if you're looking for something different, if you want to really screw with people as you design your hole and try and see how high you can get people's scores, this game is going to give it to you like no other that I've played in that sense. Is it going to be for everybody? No. If you want a straightforward, easy, non-potentially frustrating dexterity game, this is, stay away. Stay the fruitcake forking away. At the same time, do it yourself, create your own miniature golf course on the tabletop that you can play for however many holes as you want at the same time. It's unparalleled. So, I mean, that's it. Table Golf Association. Let me know your thoughts, questions, or concerns. That's it. Stay classy. Have a great, freaking fantastic day. Hole in one, baby. See you right there.